Those of you who have been watching my channel for a long time have heard me warn again and again about the dangers of medicalizing a problem. In 2019, it's very easy for people to leap to a diagnosis when really all that they've got is a description of a behavior or even just a complaint. People want to leap to the conclusion that their parents are narcissists, that their boyfriend has bipolar disorder. They want to medicalize problems, and then they think of the medical problem as something other than the person themselves. Oh, it's not you, it's your depression. Oh, it's not you, it's your bipolar disorder. And this has ushered in a kind of very dangerous poetry into our society, because these diagnoses, they are no more medically real and they are no more scientifically valid than poetic memes, than literary tropes. But they're tropes that people cling to. People develop various, in my opinion, unhealthy forms of self-justification, a justification for the behaviors of others coming out of these diagnoses and the medicalization of problems. Now, this does not exist within the spectrum of depression and formal psychiatry and psychotherapy only. In our own lives here, we got a diagnosis that proved to be false. A diagnosis that, suddenly spurred my girlfriend Melissa to change her whole life dramatically. She packed up from Taiwan and relocated back to the United States to get more tests. Spoilers, the tests she got in the United States proved that the first set of tests were wrong. But we got a diagnosis that didn't just offer us the possibility of explaining her acne as something caused by something other than her acne, that her acne wasn't just acne. It also really provided us with the appealing possibility or the appealing illusion that a lot of the problems within our relationship had been caused by an underlying hormonal condition, most likely PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, or quite possibly even a thyroid problem. So, thyroid problems create mood swings, also weight gain and hair and a lot of other symptoms that Melissa didn't have. But I know it may sound ridiculous, but in the same way that a lot of people think it's a relief to get a diagnosis of depression or even bipolar disorder. Oh, okay, now I have an excuse. Now I have a peg on the wall I can hang my hat on, sort of thing. There was definitely a strange sense. We were both aware of it. We discussed it openly. We said, oh, well, if the problem is hormonal, if the problem is PCOS, or if the problem is a thyroid condition, well, maybe when we cure this problem, we'll also cure a lot of the problems of this relationship. So in terms of to jump into the conclusions of this video, sometimes acne is just acne. There isn't an underlying hormonal condition. You don't have a hormonal imbalance. You don't have a fancy medical condition with an acronym like PCOS. You don't have anything wrong with your thyroid. Sometimes your emotional problems are just emotional problems, and they're not the result of a hormonal imbalance. Sometimes your bad behavior should be defined and addressed and discussed just as behavior, just as ultimately decisions you make that you're responsible for. And it's very dangerous and misleading to assign those decisions to a medicalized condition that you think of almost like somebody other than yourself, almost as if somebody else is making those decisions, because you think that's not me, it's my depression, or that's not me, it's my hormonal problem or something. And no, on the contrary, there's a very real sense in which you are your hormones. The difference being, if you really have a physical condition, a physically real, medically real hormone condition, that could be cured. But in Melissa's case, she doesn't have a condition like that, and she never did. So I feel this is not, long story short, I think this is really a short story, but it's one that really had dramatic twists and turns for us day by day. We made a very quick trip from Taiwan to Thailand. And even if you guys were watching every YouTube video, you might not have noticed. The background changed. Right now, I'm filming in a hotel room. Briefly, instead of being in one apartment, I was in a hotel room. but there wasn't a big impact here in terms of my social media presence or my YouTube channel. We went to Thailand, and it was a short enough trip that I didn't switch from studying Chinese to speaking Thai and studying Thai, and so it was meant to be a short trip. We went over and visited a hospital, very elite, fancy, expensive hospital, great architecture, great interior decor, and also extremely highly organized. So we went to that hospital, we saw one specialist, they immediately referred Melissa to another specialist. So we went there to inquire about the state of her acne. They looked at her acne and said, well, you got to see the hormone specialist. Went from the hormone specialist to getting an ultrasound on your ovaries. And so very quickly, I mean, they were very, very well organized, referrals from one department to another. I've never seen a hospital work that well. But unfortunately, the sense in which the hospital didn't work well was that all of the diagnoses were false. So they were really quickly rushing ahead to a conclusion that she did have a hormone imbalance problem, and that the hormone imbalance problem was most likely PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. So that changed all of our plans. We immediately booked a flight for Melissa to go back to the United States without me, to go back alone, that I would stay in Taiwan alone. This was a huge, twist in our relationship, because I had only moved to Taiwan in the first place for Melissa, for the good of the relationship, and also as an educational opportunity for her to learn Chinese. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing with my time, what I should have been doing with my time. There were a few other considerations in relation to when I visit my daughter and things. There were a few other things. But really, it was for Melissa that we moved to Taiwan, that I made that sacrifice. And now, all of a sudden, here I was marooned in Taiwan alone, in an apartment we had just rented, with a brand new fridge, brand new furniture we had just bought. And Melissa jumped ship to go back to the United States to get more blood tests done, to visit all the same specialists and more, visit a whole series of specialists. At this point in the United States, Melissa has had every single possible test. And it's boring, guys, because the results for all of them were normal, 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 normal. So it's not just the blood tests that were normal. Some people will want to leap to the conclusion, oh, well, your hormones can be linked to the microbes in your digestive tract. It could be a digestive problem. Nope. Digestion is normal. She got those tests done. You even had brain tests. She had an MRI. She had an MRI scan of her brain. So brain, blood, bowels, hormones, absolutely everything got checked. And the end of the story is, sometimes acne is just acne. Her acne problem is nothing other than acne. And in her case, not only is her acne not cured by a vegan diet, it was made worse by a vegan diet. Not only is her acne not cured by Nina and Randa's special vegan diet, which is a zero oil, zero nuts, zero seed vegan diet, extremely low fat. And then if it doesn't work for you at first, it gets more and more extreme in its low fat recommendations. It starts off not that extreme, then there are more and more restrictions as it goes. That diet made her acne worse, not better. So, as I say, the most dramatic twist and turn, at least for me, I think for Melissa also, was the emergence of an excuse for the bad behavior from Melissa that in the past has repeatedly torn this relationship apart. So all of a sudden, there was this convenient, appealing possibility. Maybe it was a hormone problem. Maybe it was a thyroid problem. And again, whether or not you think about that in terms of excuse or blame, oh wow, if that could be cured, then maybe our relationship would be able to proceed, and it would be way better with that taken out of the picture. So you had the apparition of such an excuse emerge, and then you got the fundamentally good news. I mean, it is good news. There's nothing wrong with your hormones. There's nothing wrong with any of the organs of your body. There's nothing wrong with your lymph nodes. There's nothing wrong with your brain. There's nothing wrong with your digestion. There's nothing wrong with your thyroid system. Nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. But now you got even more direct responsibility. Guess what? You are just an asshole. When you're mean to your boyfriend, It's on you. Guess what? You just made some bad choices in life. I'm adding this in from a different camera angle on a second take, obviously, after watching the original the original footage back with Melissa. It's good to laugh about this stuff. It's certainly good if you can, within a relationship, to relax and laugh about this stuff. But there's no doubt that blame and personal responsibility is about the hardest thing for people to relax and have a laugh about. Most of us develop excuse-making habits of mind in early childhood. We have some hilarious examples with my own daughter. So my own daughter at age 5 broke a plate and absolutely insisted that she wasn't the one who broke the plate. It was the step. It was the step. And, I suggested to her, you should apologize to the nice lady that you broke her plate. No, it wasn't me. It was the step. The step should apologize. So it was a real reminder of how, excuse making becomes a deep-seated behavior, becomes a behavior we're passionate about, at an early age. And I think it's really difficult for people to unravel excuse-making behavior in their personal lives, even in their political lives. I mean, at all levels, the difference between excuses and what things really are. Look, are there other circumstances that explain Melissa's behavior? Yes. Are they excuses? No. So just real quick, like 2 quick examples. Well, but I mean, these really do all relate to these issues of like hormones and what have you. I can remember a couple cases where Melissa was, in brief, abusive to me at an airport. She treated me like shit at an airport for no reason. We weren't having a fight out of the blue. And you can look at that and say, like, well, being at an airport's a stressful situation. You got to get... Yeah, it's part of the context, but it's not an excuse. And guess what? I want a girlfriend who's capable of, going to an airport without freaking out and being abusive towards me for no reason. And if that's an unreasonable expectation on my part, okay, fine. I'm still going to break up with you and move on and find someone who can cope with that level of stress. I mean, wasn't an extreme level of stress. You can talk about it that way. But again, the problem there is one of attitude. Right, we were at an airport. I understand that. There's certain stresses involved. But you still have to treat me with dignity and respect, even though we're in this airport, right? Now, if hypothetically Melissa had a hormone problem, and it's now interesting because we can talk about it hypothetically and we know it's false. If the problem was that during these years Melissa had some kind of hormone problem, then you say something similar, like, well, look, that may make it more difficult for you to behave in a way towards me that's respectful or something. But guess what? You still got to do it. It's still on you. It's still your choice. It's still your responsibility. It's still your fault. It's still on you. With whatever hormones I got hormones too. Everybody's got hormones. Everybody's got to cope with their own hormones. Everybody's got to cope with, little situations like hauling your luggage around an airport. And the point is to treat me with dignity and respect. And of course, I have to treat you with dignity and respect also. Which is, not just that. Dignity, respect, being loving, being kind. I mean, love and kindness, these things, not just as abstractions, but being loving, being kind to the other person, Now, for me at age 40, it's very easy for me to be like that towards Melissa. And full disclosure, I was not that good at it back when I was like 25. I wasn't. I got better at all those skills with age and experience and what have you. And other girlfriends didn't have quite so. I was better looking when I was younger, but in other ways, other girlfriends had more of a challenge me. And look, the ultimate set of circumstances, the airport some of us never get out of, is our experience being raised by our own parents. And I've met and spent time with Melissa's parents, and it's very obvious that some of her behaviors and expectations and so on come straight out of that, that childhood she grew up in. And the way her parents act towards each other and the way they act towards her and what they consider a normal conversation, okay, but guess what? Now you're 26 years old and it's on you. You don't get to blame the airport. You don't get to blame your hormones. You don't get to blame your parents. It's not just that it's like 50% on you. You're 26 years old. You're an adult. these are your choices, and you are the one with the consequences. It's actually 100% on you. You know. So hypothetically, it doesn't matter if your parents were the worst parents in the world. You know, ultimately, this is now on your shoulders, and you at least have to take that attitude. And for my part in the relationship, I also have to say, look, you know, I have to make this decision. I have to draw the line and say, no, you can't treat me this way. If you cross this line, I'm leaving you. It's the end of the relationship. Here are my expectations. Here's what I require in terms of human decency, kindness, love, treating me with respect. And, you know, if you can't do that, you can blame your parents, you can blame your hormones, you can blame hauling your luggage around the airport, but ultimately, it's irrelevant. Ultimately, that's just the childish excuse-making part of your mind that all of us, I think, have an obligation to overcome as adults. And that brings us back to the big leitmotif in this video, thinking about medicalizing your problems, then using that as an excuse-making mode of thought and action. So, since the last video, you know, discussing the state of the relationship, we broke up again, and we talked it through, and we've now gotten back together again. We're going to be separated for at least 6 months by the course of this, you know, medical treatment. It's a real trial for all participants. You know, I think this issue of wanting to believe in a diagnosis as something other than who you are, I think the final irony is that people want to think about love itself that way too. That's maybe the ultimate example of a literary convention, of a poetic idea, of a meme or a trope in literature that people come to think of as something other than who I am. You know, there's me, and then there are my feelings for you, or there's the fact that we're in love, or even there's just the relationship thought of as something other than who I am and the choices I make. You know, we've gotten back together again with the promise from Melissa that she understands who she is better than she did before, that she understands the problems in the relationship better than she did before. When we met, you were 24 years old, right? Now you're 26. No one could deny that the last 2.5 years have been a period of intense growth and a lot of personal changes for you. And, you know, again, I've been convinced to give you another chance. But we're now going to go into a very, very peculiar phase of the relationship where she's going to be undergoing medical treatment for acne, JUST ACNE in the United States. And our relationship, we may collaborate on YouTube videos together, but it's going to be entirely via Skype. It's going to be entirely via email for at least 6 months, for quite a long time. This is going to be a long-distance relationship.
I mean, really, people like to disrespect my crew, but the fact is that you know my name and I don't know you.